is officially 2025, which means spring training is getting a whole lot closer, about a month and a half until pitchers and catchers report and position players will trickle in. And well, I believe it's February 22nd will be the first spring training game of the season, but there's still more work to be done as we welcome you to the Queen's Connection. I am your host, Andrew Patton, joined by the co-host, Corne Hogeveen. Corne, it's been a little bit. Christmas has gone by. New Year's is here. What's been happening in your world these last couple of weeks other than Mets baseball?
Oh, a lot of fireworks. If anybody knows the Netherlands, everybody can buy fireworks here. So a lot of noise over the last 3 days or something like that. Uh, for the rest, it was a normal week for me. Did some Christmas things with the family, but yesterday I had to work during New Year's Eve. So normal times.
Can I say something about fireworks before we go too far down?
Sure.
Fireworks are extremely overrated.
I totally agree. I hate fireworks.
Yeah, my dog hates fireworks, so
Yeah, my cat too. My cat has now stayed with us upstairs or on top of the bed or under the bed for the last 3 days. Luckily, right now it's pretty quiet, but it's pretty crazy in the Netherlands, and um, to me, it's one, not worth the money. I heard that there was around, and the Netherlands is not a big country, so take that into account, all the American listeners. But there was a record $118 million, euro, I should say, spent on fireworks by people. So that's pretty crazy for a country that has like 18 million uh, people in there. So that's a lot of money spent on fireworks, and I don't really watch it all that much. Even when I'm free and not at work, I don't really watch it. So uh, I totally agree, Andrew. Another thing we agree on, shockingly.
Yeah, hopefully there's going to be some disagreements just for the sake of entertainment. But maybe fireworks wasn't, or me disliking fireworks maybe wasn't as big of a hot take as I initially thought. So I know some people feel the same way as that we do. So um, maybe we're not totally alone on that island, which is interesting and whatnot. But like I said, maybe more hot takes to come in this episode. But there has been some news, some transactions made of late, mostly on the pitching side of things for the Mets. As obviously there was work to be done with the rotation to fill it out, to add some depth and whatnot, and the Mets did that by filling in at the top end and on the back end when it comes to the rotation. So we'll start with the back end first because that was the signing that happened first between the two. The Mets signed Griffin Canning back in late December to a 1 year, $4.25 million deal. There's $1 million in bonuses as well. So Griffin Canning, already had an interesting offseason. He was been a member of the Angels organization for many years. He got traded from the Angels to the Braves in November for Jorge Soler. And when it came around tender time for contracts and whatnot, the Braves decided not to tender a contract to Griffin Canning. So Griffin Canning was a free agent for about a month, and he signs with the New York Mets. Now, obviously, there were people naturally freaking out about this because that's not Corbin Burns, who has since gone on to sign with the Arizona Diamondbacks. That's not Jack Flaherty, who's still out in the market, Nick Pivetta or whatnot. But David Stearns has said, um, you need about, I think he said like 9 to 10 starting pitchers in your system or whatnot to get through a season. Something we discussed too, especially when you're going to have a 6-man rotation. So, the more arms you can have, the better. So I will tell people, you look at the stat lines for Griffin Canning, the baseball savant for Griffin Canning. It's not overly sexy or whatnot. I understand that, but I understand the move because, like I just said, you need to have arms. You just need to have arms in your system, whether they're at the major league level or the minor league level, that you can feel comfortable plugging in. If, say, someone like Kodai Senga has a hiccup along the way in the season, someone like David Peterson, if he has IL stint and whatnot. You need to have guys you can feel comfortable slotting into the rotation if those circumstances happen. And that's nothing more than what Griffin Canning's going to be now. Could he? Is there something maybe the Mets are seeing that other teams haven't? Get him in the Jeremy Hefner Doctor Frankenstein pitching lab, and maybe they pop out a no. It's another success story. It's possible, but I caution people to who are either still not over signing Griffin Canning or whatnot, or don't like Griffin Canning or whatnot, take a deep breath, just see how it plays out. And if it doesn't go well for the Mets, then they're just out $5 million. And by the way, that $5 million is not coming out of any of our paychecks. It's coming out of Steve Cohen. So what difference does it make to us? But Griffin Canning as a depth signing, I think it's a fine move. I don't think people should be getting their panties in a wad about this one.
No, definitely not. First of all, he's probably going to be that Trevor Williams role if everything goes well, if there's no injuries. Um, we all know that injuries happen. Last year, we missed our ace in Kodai Senga, but overall, we had a pretty healthy pitching staff besides that. That's not going to happen every year. I think that Trevor Williams' role is suited for him, a guy who can pitch some multiple innings out of the pen and get a start here and there, or when a rotation arm is out for a longer period, maybe you will get some more starts in a row. He had a bad year. No denying that. His expected ERA was slightly better at 4.74. However, he threw innings, and innings are important. Like you mentioned, innings are important. He made his start through innings. Um, and I think another point for this with Griffin Canning is that he was with a system, with an organization that hasn't had the most success in getting the most out of their arms. I think there are a couple of organizations in Major League Baseball where I think you look beyond any of the numbers, because if there is something more out of getting them, those teams are likely not going to find it. We know Colorado is the type of organization, obviously with the altitude issue there. But the Los Angeles Angels are also an organization which doesn't get the most out of their players. And right now, I think the Mets do, especially in pitching. And I'm not sure if they are already at that point in offense, but I think they definitely do in pitching. Um, so if a team can get the Mets, can get Griffin Canning going, it's the Mets. And right now he has a role on the team. I think that's probably for certain. It pushes Jose Puto at a 2.00 ERA as a reliever to the bullpen, in my opinion. He might be stretched out during the season because that always helps. But I think his spot right now is in the bullpen. So right now you have a couple of arms in the bullpen who, again, importantly, pitch innings. We didn't have a long man last year. I think it's good to have one now, especially like you mentioned, 6-man rotation. Um, there, there's just need of one fluke start, and your whole bullpen isn't a mess for the next 3 days when you have Griffin Canning ready to go there. So it's a solid move. Um, and I definitely, like you said, wouldn't be shocked if the Mets get a far better year than the LA Angels got out of Griffin Canning. The stuff is there. He has a good changeup. His fastball gets rocked, but he also has a good slider. So there are some pitches that the Mets can work with. Maybe they can change the shape of his fastball or whatnot, or like they did last year, add a better sinker. And I mean, in the end, it's not a loss if Griffin Canning doesn't work out. It doesn't hurt the depth a lot. We still have Tyler McGill, who, if everything goes right, is probably your AAA starter right now, which is pretty good to have. Um, so it's nothing to. I don't know how you said it, but you said it well. It's nothing to be totally mad about or shocked about. Also, it wasn't the last move in our rotation. A lot of people said that the rotation was set when we added Griffin Canning. Well, I think it was clear that it wasn't. so we saw that we added another arm.
Yeah, and the thing that sticks out about Griffin Canning on just looking at the baseball savant page, and like I said, the page overall was not anything to write home about, but you made the good point of he does not exactly come from a pitching rich organization, so there's probably things the Mets can do that uh, could help improve some of these metrics or whatnot. But the off-speed run value has always been a very high percentile with Griffin Canning, and you just said it there. His changeup, slider, it's no very good pitches for him. So um, it's just finding a way to make that fastball effective enough where it's not getting rocked as much as it has in his career with the Angels, and um, obviously if they can work on that, this can make Griffin Canning a more well-rounded pitcher. So, and also only 28 years old, which I found a little surprising. I thought he was more, as some people say, on the wrong side of 30. Maybe like a 31-year-old pitcher or something like that. But 28 years old, maybe there's still something to like we said, to tinker with there. Maybe they haven't, the Angels didn't unlock what they maybe hoped to unlock with Griffin Kane. Maybe Jeremy Hefner can tap into that, and I should say Jeremy Hefner Company. It's not just Jeremy Hefner. He's just kind of
He's
the
the poster boy,
he's the poster boy, but there's other people that go into that help
just
out.
like in the front office, not just Stearns, but he's the
Right,
poster boy for us.
right, exactly. But the overall point is, let's just see how this plays out with Griffin Canning. See if all goes well, that'd be super awesome. If it doesn't go well, then we'll just view it like when the Mets DFA Jake Diekman. Jake Diekman had a similar salary last year. It's just cutting, just let it go. Write him the check, say thanks for your service, and we're gonna move on to elsewhere. So we'll see what happens with Griffin Canning. Obviously, we'll be optimistic about it and hope they get the best out of Mr. Griffin Canning.
Yeah, and even if he is bad, I think, I, I mean, I think hopefully he isn't in the role that it's such a big deal. If he is in that long relief role, we know when arms go into a long relief role, it's probably when the starting pitcher doesn't have his day, or an injury could happen, obviously. But mostly it's to get innings and to hopefully keep it close. So you don't have to be perfect in that role. I think Trevor Williams did that role obviously amazing, but he was also in a lot of games where the Mets had a large deficit. So not too much pressure on a pitcher, and I think that could help a guy like Griffin Canning, who comes from an organization where he was a second round pick and highly touted prospect, get him out of there and be just not someone the Mets truly rely on. Obviously, they rely on him, but not be one of those main arms to get us to the postseason, but a placeholder, place filler.
Contributor.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, obviously the Mets, they did get a guy who can be relied on more often and expected to be the guy. It's a guy we're very familiar with. We saw him pitch last season for the Mets, and I don't want I guess you could say have a career renaissance. I guess you can have that when you're in your early to mid 30s or whatnot. And that is Mr. Sean Manaea coming back on a 3-year, $75 million deal, which was a very shocking deal to me, especially with how the pitching market had presented itself and how long and pricey certain pitchers uh, were getting for contracts or whatnot. There is some money deferred in this contract as well, so do have to mention that we can't get. I mean, we're not. It's not the same level as the Dodgers, but the Mets are deferring some money here with Sean Manaea. But this was a deal or a guy that it had been reported throughout the offseason that uh, I believe it was Heyman or whatnot. There was the list of pitchers the Mets were keeping tabs on: Burr Manaea, Pivetta, Flaherty, Walt Bueller, blah blah blah, and obviously the Mets, with some of those guys going off the board, they still kept in touch with Sean Manaea. There was the report that Manaea got a contract offer from the A's, and he turned that down, and then the A's pivoted to former Met Severino, whatnot. But Manaea also, after that Game 6 against the Dodgers, made it clear that he would like to come back to the Mets if everything worked out. Well, they found common ground, and he is coming back. Uh, Obviously, a career year for Manaea, like I said, career high in innings, career best ERA, and uh, was just really became the ace of the Mets pitching staff last season. And I feel pretty comfortable saying today on New Year's Day, as we record this, that Sean Manaea is probably getting the ball opening day in Houston.
I bet even if we add a pitcher by trade, I think an opening day start is also a little bit of what you did last year for the organization. So I would like to see, even if we hypothetical, this is hypothetical, Andrew, but even if we get a guy like Dylan Cease or something like that, who's probably your ace, I would like to see Sean Manaea get the opening day start just to say, look at what you did for us last year. You were tremendous for us. You got a new deal. Be happy to have you back. Here's the opening day start. So I hope that happens. We will see if the Mets do something surprising on the rotation side. Right now, if you ask me, I think the Mets are done. Maybe a trade is happening. I could see that with a lot of good names out there. Pablo Lopez is a guy. Luis Castillo is a guy who I think the Mets probably keep tabs on. But right now, I think the Mets have uh, a lot of arms to fill out their rotation. Sean Manaea is a big part of it. Pitched like an ace in the second half, like you said. I think the first half, if you look at the overall ERA from both halves, I think it's about the same. But we had a discussion about expected ERA before the show. I think if you look at the expected ERA in the first half, I think it's a lot different than the expected ERA in the second half. Second half, he was allowing a lot less hits, striking out more batters, and went deeper into the games, walked less. I think a little bit of the same with David Peterson, who has a pretty high expected ERA. Well, I think it also ballooned because of the first half, where his actual ERA stayed down, but his expected ERA was pretty high. And I think it's mainly the walks and the whip with David Peterson. Both him and Sean Manaea got it down in the second half. Point I eventually want to make with this is that we have a couple of pitchers who had good second halves. I think Frankie Montas had a better second half last year. So then you have three pitchers coming off good second halves, which to me is also good that they were able to provide length in their season and maybe find something in the second half. And obviously for Manaea, we know Manaea well enough to not have to go deep into the numbers, change his arm angle. That made a major difference. I think that's what that's why he gets that money, because what he did during the season and how he changed that and how more effective uh, he became. Also, guy 32 years old. If you look at the contract, I think the Mets got a steal. I think he got the same contract than Nathan Eovaldi, who was obviously really good. But I think not necessarily looking at track record for Sean Manaea because of his adjustments in his arm angle. I think we saw that he was a completely different pitcher. So that's a major win for us. I have high hopes that a full year of Sean Manaea, the way he altered himself, is going to be I don't like the word ace to giving out as easily, but a close to ace type season for the Mets if he stays healthy.
So the question I want to ask, and obviously I'm very happy Sean Manaea is coming back to the Mets. It's been obviously beneficial and whatnot. They had the press release, everything like that. Um, Also, I didn't know he was like this tribal leader or whatnot. I didn't know that. I didn't know people call him
Tribal
like
chief.
the tribal chief, whatever. I like that was news to me or whatnot. I know you're a little bit more in the know when it comes to these cult followings on Mets Twitter and whatnot. But anyway, back to the question I was going to ask. Uh, he, like you said, he got the same contract as Nathan Eovaldi, and Nathan Eovaldi opening day is going to be 35 years old. Sean Manaea will be 33 years old. So Manaea is 2 years younger than Nathan Eovaldi. Why do you think Sean Manaea got the same contract as Eovaldi? And I'm not trying to make it like a bad thing, like oh, like he got the same contract as Nathan Eovaldi. Nathan Eovaldi is obviously a very good pitcher. I'm still trying to because we talked about like Sean Manaea with the way this market's going, could get like a 5 year contract as a opening day 33-year-old, um, and he what he ends up getting is the 3 years, 75 million from the Mets. I'm obviously very happy with that. With a like I said, like I would much rather have like the Scherzer Verlander deals, lower years, higher average annual value and whatnot. Um, but why do you think Sean Manaea got the 3 year deal? Like I just find it hard to imagine that this was the best deal he got on the open market. Maybe he got more years, but for a lower salary, and he wanted more money than the years or something like that. And he's like, oh, well, he's just searching for money. Like, no, people, it's just business. Why not? Let's get over ourselves. Let's get off our high horses. Um, why do you think Sean Manaea settled on the 3 years, 75 from the Mets? Do you think it was because he wanted to be a Met? Do you think that is truly the factor for why he took it? Because I'm just still, like I said, surprised he didn't get like a at least a 4 year or a 5 year deal.
To me, there's a couple of things that could be part of the reason. Uh, One is maybe track record. If you compare Nathan Eovaldi and Sean Manaea, although Eovaldi is older, obviously Eovaldi have been more consistent over, probably the last 5 years. For Nathan Eovaldi, he's always been a consistent performer, so that could be part. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I could see other organizations looking at that and saying, well, this is a maybe even a second half, um, no second half thing, and we have to see more out of you to give you a 5 year deal. I could see that. I could understand it, but I think looking at how Sean and I performed from that lower arm slot, I think there's definitely an adjustment made there. Um, could be that, yes, he got better deals elsewhere, but I think it's something. Um, he said that he saw a Chris Sale, but then still you have to work out a plan to adjust your arm angle like that with the Mets pitching brass. So it's still not just Sean Manaea. So maybe he said that's where I made such an adjustment, which worked really well. Um, I want to stay there. I could see that. I think Jeremy Hefner. If we don't have Roki Sasaki on our list to talk about, but I think that's if the Mets get Roki Sasaki. We saw a report yesterday. It's because of Jeremy Hefner and what he can do, and I think pitchers now noticed it. We had some good arms that became better, and Sean Manaea became better as a Met, and Sean Manaea turned into an ace-like pitcher with the Mets because he and the Mets, I still say it both. Just it's people who say that it's Sean Manaea's own doing. No, it's both. They both worked it out, and I think it's good to see that. A lot of times you see somebody work things out with one team and then leave. I think Harold Reynolds said that on MLB Network. I think he said it perfectly. It's good to see that something that really worked for both sides, um, keep it going for both sides. And I hope that Shamanaya seems like a very cool dude to me. So I could see him getting better offers and saying this. It's not a bad offer for Shamanaya. I mean, $25 million per year. I mean, that's good money for Shamanaya. So it's a fair offer for Shamanaya. Could he got more years? I think he could, but I think it's still a fair offer the Mets gave him. And if it was a fair offer, maybe Manaya said, "Oh well, when it's a fair offer, I'm going to return for the reasons I said."
I'm just still trying to get over the fact that you said what something Harold Reynolds said made sense. So I'm still
Yeah,
trying to process that at the moment right now.
I was shocked too. Mostly, it doesn't make sense at all. But that was a tremendous point. We see it. We see that a lot. That look at Daniel Murphy who figured something out and then left. And I talk Daniel Murphy because he's right in front of me right now on my wall, and that's uh, that was a guy who figured it out at some point and then left. And that's a guy who was there longer. But we saw a lot of 1 year guys with teams and then saying, "Oh well, thank you for the year, but now I'm going to get paid somewhere else." And I think it's good to see that they rewarded each other. Let me say it like that.
Yeah, and obviously, like I said, I'm not trying to
No, no, no.
be
But
Sherlock Holmes to try to figure out why did Shaman like there's this big mystery behind why Shaman I did get a big deal. I'm just posing the question because like you look at Max Fried, he's gonna be 31 opening day. He got 8 years from the New York Yankees. Now I know Max Fried is was a little bit in a bit of a different category than a Sean Manaea and and Nathan Eovaldi and whatnot. But like we just went with Eovaldi, the 35-year-old opening day, he got the 3 year deal. Like I thought Manaea would kind of be I thought he would get a deal kind of in the middle. And maybe it's like you say, the year he had with the Padres was kind of, for to use my word, meh. And then he got relegated to the bullpen at one point with the Giants and was pitching a lot out of there. And then he got back in the rotation. And but and obviously last offseason, the Mets signed, there was question marks about Sean Manaea. And I guess maybe like you said, maybe there were teams that still had some question marks about Sean Manaea and if what he did from the latter part of the summer into the fall, if that is actually going to be the case for a full 162, whatnot. So maybe that's why Sean and I just got the 3 years. Um, but obviously, I'm happy about it. If you if you told me Sean and I is coming back on the Mets for this contract, on Halloween night, whatever, whatever night you want to pick, late October or early November, I would have said that's amazing. That would be awesome. So I'm not trying to be Mr. Debbie Downer about it. I'm just trying to, you know, because we like to think like a front office would. So, that's all we're trying to do here.
maybe you got a 5 year, $125 million deal from the Los Angeles Angels. I said, hell no.
Yeah. I don't want to go there.
Not there. I'm just figuring it out. I'm not going to mess it up again.
But obviously, we're very happy to have Sean Manaea back and pitching for the New York Mets for the next 3 years, and hopefully a part of or a contributing or maybe the bulldog of this rotation for this year and years to come.
And you know how you're going to name him now? I have a shirt on its way. I think it's getting here in a couple of days. He's our tribal chief, Andrew. He's our tribal chief.
I guess he's the tribal chief. I didn't know it. I didn't know that either. But
I
like
heard
it's
I heard the nickname. I saw the nickname on X right now. I have to say X, not Twitter, but X. Uh, I had no idea where it came from, but it's a WWE uh, person who looks a lot like Sean Manaea, and he's called the tribal chief.
uh,
So
I can
that's
tell
where
you,
it comes
I
from.
can tell you, I've never watched WWE in my life, and I probably never will. If I wanted to watch
Me
a
neither.
performance, I'd probably go to Broadway.
But I think, but I totally agree. By the way, but I do like the nickname with Sean Manaea for. I think it fits.
Sure. I mean,
Yeah.
who am I to judge nicknames? You know. So, the tribal chief is back leading,
Adding that.
back leading. I I was going to go down the road, but I think people might try to cancel us, so I'm just going to leave it at that. So let's move on from players the Mets have signed to players who have not signed with the Mets
We
or with.
forget one, Andrew. You forget one. We also have signed Jarek Young, or do you want to get
Well, I want to
into
get.
that?
We'll finish with that because we don't have to spend it too. We won't spend too much time because obviously
Gotcha.
We'll get to Jared Young, uh, but
I
obviously,
don't think it's that obviously. By the way,
well,
that we get
well, what I was because obviously what I'm trying to get at with this segue was when the Mets signed Shamanaya, people were like, all right, what's going to be the next move? Because obviously there's something to be done, whether that's Roki Sasaki, and you said it in when you were talking about the Shamanaya stuff. I kind of agree with you that if the Mets wait, the way I'm thinking is if the Mets don't get Sasaki, then it's probably from quote unquote headlining pitchers, they're probably going to be done adding to the rotation in that part of the grocery store. Um, but obviously, there's still some high quality meats available in that supermarket, and one of them is Pete Alonso, and then we have seen first baseman come off the board, Paul Goldschmidt. He's going to the Yankees. Nathaniel Lowe got traded from Texas to Washington, and Washington still signed Josh Bell. Josh Naylor got traded from Cleveland to Arizona. Cleveland re-upped with Carlos Santana. So some 1 year options that we had talked about, they're gone. They're off the board. Alonso's the only real big commodity first baseman left on the market, at least no, as I'm thinking of it. Maybe there's someone else. Um, and the reports are out there that the Alonso market hasn't they haven't gotten the deals that they were looking for. And it doesn't appear it's going to go that way. At least, I would assume at this point, if they haven't gotten the deals now, when are you going to get them? Uh, so everyone is talking about, does this make it even more likely he comes back to the Mets? Um, and I say yes. I think it's more likely he comes back to the Mets just because if he's going to take like the maybe like let's play the theoretical game. Let's say he gets like the Cody Bellinger deal that Bellinger got last offseason from the Cubs. So if he gets like the we'll say 3 years. What was that rumor out there? Like 3 years, 90 million. Maybe an opt out after each year or something like that. I'd sign up for that. Um, I'd be okay with that because, like I said, my biggest concern about Alonso was the long term commitment. Like the 6, 7 year deal that it was reported that he wanted. Um, like he wanted like the Freddie Freeman deal plus. My concern was giving him that because I don't think like something we talked about it would age well. But if you want to give him like 3, like we just said with Sean Manaea, or lesser years, higher money per year, I'm totally good with that. I think those are the kind of deals I would really love to dish out if I was David Stearns, because obviously they have the resources to give people a lot more money, but you get them on shorter term, so you're out of the deal just like that. So if that's the kind of deal Alonso would settle on, I'm for it. I don't know if the Alonso camp is there yet, but if that's the way this is going, I think that plays right into the Mets' hand, and I think that means he comes back to the Mets. But based on our conversations, I know you say you feel a little bit differently than I do, so I will give you the floor. Um, yeah, oh, you're looking at me like I have three heads. Did you not say that you think this means Alonso is
All
less
right.
likely to be
Yeah.
in that? Is that what you said, or am I putting words into your mouth?
Well, I thought you meant not wanting him for that 3 year,
No,
$90 million
no, no,
type
no, no. I
contract.
meant like you think the way things are matriculating that it means
Yeah.
it's more likely Alonso's gone. That's what I was trying to drive home at.
I have the feeling because I think if the Mets Alonso, I think I like you said, I think Alonso just isn't there with his camp for taking that type of deal. And I doubt if that time comes early enough for the Mets to say, "All right, we're gonna wait on you." I think the Mets need one more bat and have the ability to get one more bat. And I think if the Alonso camp keeps waiting on it, I think at some point the Mets are gonna pivot. There are other options available. I think you can always move Mark Vientos down to first base. Um, so the 3 year $90 million, and this is an if. We have seen some reports that that was an offer made, and we've seen some reports that Pete Alonso has declined that offer and wants that around 175 to $100 million deal still. To me, right now, um, I have that feeling that if Alonso wanted to come back to the Mets, he would have signed that 3 year $90 million deal because I think it's not a fair offer maybe in length for what he did for the Mets, but it's definitely a fair offer in annual average annual value. 30 million is the highest paid first baseman. So I've seen some reports that people say that's a low ball offer, maybe in the years, but I also think it's worth noticing that Pete Alonso right now doesn't really have a market. So it's not just the Mets who feel that way. A lot of teams don't feel that Pete Alonso is worth that kind of deal because of um, what we said. I think we started with in May with this with Pete Alonso last year. Um, that he isn't a guy I see that will age well. If you look at Juan Soto, I think that's a guy that will age well because he has a bat ability and is younger, obviously. Pete Alonso is a power hitter. When he loses power, he loses everything. I've said that for a long, long time, um, and I still feel that way. If he gets a 3 year deal, I would be all for it. I would go max 5, but then it's still not where Pete Alonso wants it to be. If he wants a 6 or 7 year deal, I think he goes elsewhere, and I think some other team might be stupid enough to do that. Let me say it like that. And that's no knock on Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso is a great power hitter. Is the best power hitter the Mets have seen. But at some point, it's not just throwing out money, and that's not what David Stearns is gonna do. David Stearns has never paid for a first baseman, and rightfully so, in my estimation. Um, Pete Alonso also, I know Pete Alonso had a lot of pressure on him last year. That probably didn't help, but we also see a decline in OPS. Is that a start? Is it already started? Since his rookie year, it's gone down. Is his decline already started? And is Pete Alonso wanting, um, to take this time to get a as long-term deal as he wants because he's aware of that. That's all. It could also be the case. From this is my time to get a 5 to 7 year deal for a solid AAV, because after this time I might be declining more. Maybe he's aware of that. Maybe he's concerned of that. That could be the case. That he says 3 years. Yeah, well, maybe I'm washed after 3 years, and I can get a new deal, and then I have 90 million instead of maybe 125 for 5, for example. So we don't know what Pete Alonso thinks, but right now, I, I I I would have said that if Pete Alonso wanted to be a Met, and I think maybe they would be closer. Let me put it out differently. They would be closer to each other, like they are now in what the reports said. If the reports are true, I have to add that because it's not confirmed by a major source. But if the reports are true that they are still so far, um, far between, I don't know if they can
Bridge
get
the gap.
together. Yeah,
Yeah,
bridge the gap.
yeah, yeah. And I like what you said there because it's it was these rumors or if you want to call it report didn't come from like you said anyone super credible. So obviously we're just speculating, and that's what this time of the year is. It's all speculatory stuff. Um, and I don't blame Pete Alonso for if his thought is I want to get the 6 7 year deal. I mean everyone would want to get like a long term deal with that kind of money. Um, but like you said, the way things have gone so far, it doesn't appear that, at least right now, that that's the case. Now, maybe a team does, like you said, is would give him that kind of contract, and I think there was something that said the Giants are keeping tabs on him. We know that's a team that has always been searching for a bat. Um, to but
How
no one
about the
wants to.
Blue Jays?
Yeah, Blue
The Blue,
Jays.
the Blue Jays who have missed out on everybody. Maybe with Vlad probably gone after this year. I could see them swoop in and say, "All right, this is our first baseman," and um, maybe have him as DH or Vladdy as DH for the final year. Make one more push with him, or have a deadline deal with Vlad Guerrero Jr. because you don't want to lose him and get nothing. Um, I can see that happening.
Yeah, and I mean, look at the Tigers too. That's a team that has reportedly been, wanting to spend some money. I guess there was a recent report that says they're all in on Alex Bregman, so that's the guy they're targeting. But they just signed Gleyber Torres, and they're going to move their young stud Colt Keith to first base. Like, so even the Tigers are saying, you know what, we'd rather do the 1 year deal with Gleyber and then move one of our interior or our in-house guys over to first base. So I mean, I know that's a possible option. The Mets go in as well with Vientos saying they maybe we move him to first base. That's something we have talked about. There's some people that have been a little bit more maybe reluctant to do that just because they want him to continue to develop at third base. I know that's been a topic discussed on some of these baseball panel shows and whatnot. Um, but I mean, it's obviously going to be a fascinating thing to keep tabs on if he comes back or not. I definitely at the beginning of the offseason was leaning towards no, I don't think he's coming back. Now the pendulum is kind of swinging the other way just based on how the market has not really developed for him this offseason.
Yeah, I would love just for listeners to to be sure. I would love to have Pete Alonso back, just not for a 6 or 7 year deal. If he gets a 5 year deal, I would be very pleased with that too, because he's still a premier home run hitter, and I think in a lineup when you add Soto to the lineup we already have, um, and have Pete Alonso. I think that's a beast lineup. It would also help Pete Alonso. I think if you have one Soto in that lineup to not be the guy, he doesn't need to be the guy. He needs to be Pete Alonso. So definitely want Pete Alonso back. But to me, um, it has to be still for the right years. And I would give him 5 years, but that's to me that's the max.
Yeah,
And because I don't think he aged well. And another thing, you mentioned that people are wanting Vientos to develop at third base. The guy isn't a good third baseman. Let's stop there. If the better option is moving him to first base to get a better glove or a better player or whatnot, or a better financial move or a better move for your future, whatnot, you move Vientos. I think he made some fine plays, but overall he's been in the minors. He's been not good. Yeah, I saw the reports, but I once saw his fielding percentage below 900 at third base in the minor leagues in a season. I mean, that's crazy bad if your fielding percentage is below nine. And fielding percentage is everything, but we also see that he doesn't have range. So he was a very bad third baseman. He is. People say he's playable there. Well, he's playable because he has a tremendous bat, because he is a good third baseman. He's among the, if you look at defensive runs saved and outs above average, he's amongst the worst defensive third baseman out there. And let's be clear, that's what he is. And that's not great, but it's also not that bad because he can hit. But if it's better for the Mets to move him from third to first, it's not like we're gonna lose Alex Bregman type of Gold Glove, or Nolan Arenado, who said that he wants to go to first base, but he's still a very good third baseman. He isn't a good third baseman, so if that's the best move, you make that move. That's one thing I want.
a guy who's probably a below average fielder at his position, but makes the occasional good play, but has a bat that offsets some of that. Who's that sound like to you? the guy.
Daniel Murphy?
I was gonna go with Pete Alonso, but
Oh,
the guy we were just talking about, But no,
yeah. I
I
think
agree.
Pete Alonso is a better first baseman than Vientos is a third baseman, and that says a lot.
Yeah, yeah, and obviously, I we've been talking about this for a while about shifting Vientos and creating space for whether that was an internal option or an external option. I think that's the move to make personally. But we're not the ones making the decisions. There are guys that get paid big bucks to make those decisions.
Yes,
So we'll see what.
I'm good. I'm good with Vientos at third if you get Pete Alonso back. I'm good with that. I think you have Lindor, who's a very good shortstop, helping there. But we have to stop saying that, oh, let's develop Mark Vientos at third. If I bet he's never gonna be a good third baseman. So if he can be a also not great first baseman, and you have a Gold Glover at third, for example, Alex Bregman, Why wouldn't you do that? I just don't, because maybe Mark Vientos' feelings are hurt that he doesn't play third anymore. Come on,
As long as the paychecks don't bounce, that's all that matters.
he doesn't care. He wants to play. He wants to bat. Maybe he wants to field. Well, let's field first base. I think Mark Vientos is happy that he had a breakout season, and we are very happy that he did. Um, Mark Vientos is going to get is solidifying himself as getting a nice paycheck at some point if he keeps this going, and he has fun playing on the baseball field. And would he wants to stay a third baseman? Probably, but if it's not the best for the organization, it's not the best for the organization, and that's why you have to look at it. That's just my opinion.
Yep. No, I think it's a very valid opinion, and I think there are some that feel the same way, and obviously there are people who don't feel the same way. But that's what makes these discussions very interesting. And we all right. I think we're going a little bit longer than we probably anticipated or whatnot. We wanted to, so we'll make this quick. Um, the Mets did make another 40-man signee. Like we'll phrase it that way because they did make some other minor league signs or whatnot. But we won't dive too much into those if at all today. But they did sign Jared Young, who's had some cups of coffee with the Chicago Cubs in his big league career, but mostly been in AAA the last couple of years with the Cubs, and spent half the AAA season last year in the Cardinal organization. Then he finished out in the KBO, I believe, if the timeline is correct on that. And he's a guy, left-handed bat, who's got some versatility. Looks like a high on base percentage guy. He showed some pop as well in his career. He's only 28 years old, and a very interesting bench candidate for the Mets. And obviously, they've brought in other guys on minor league deals who we said will probably compete for bench spots. But Jared Young might have a little bit of an upper hand right now, just the fact that he's on the 40-man roster. So, what is there to like about Jared Young in your mind?
Well, you mentioned two things three things actually. He has some versatility, which is obviously really good. He has some pop. I mean, if you look at his AAA years, 2023 had a 995 OPS in 90 games, uh, and in 2024, if in his AAA time, he had a 917 OPS in 74 games before going to the KBO and having a 1080 OPS in 38 games there, 10 home runs in 38 games. So it's definitely some pop there. Obviously, it's a worse league. We know that, but still, those are great numbers. And even if you look at his overall major league numbers, he had a 98 OPS plus in the major leagues in 22 games. So showed some pop there, hit two home runs, and three triples in 16 games for the Cubs in 2023. So it's not like he didn't have any success anywhere. He had some success in recent years. I think those numbers are pretty. If you can get even in a hitter-friendly AAA, if you get an OPS over 900, you're doing well. If you then move to the KBO, whole different league, whole different culture, and still perform like he did there, I think that's pretty impressive. Because to me, it would be a culture shock if you move, even if you're not there for long. It's definitely, something different in South Korea than in America. So him performing there to me is also pretty impressive. Um, Left-handed bat, I think he's a lefty, right? Yeah. So solid depth move. He has a split contract, so I think he would be one of the first uh, moves the Mets make when they need a guy uh, to play somewhere that Jared Young can play and to be on our bench. So I think there's a 90% chance that we see Jared Young at some point for the Mets in the majors this year. We can say this year now.
Can say this year now. That's true.
Yeah.
We talked about his versatility. He, people asking positions he can play. He's mostly what I would say is a corners guy, corner infield, corner outfield. That's kind of where he's played mostly. I think he had some games at second base in the minor leagues as well, but not as he hasn't played there as much as compared to some of these other positions. So and he'll be an interesting guy to watch during spring train if you want to do like deep dives into the roster spots 23 through 26, compared to the top of the roster and
Mhm.
whatnot. So he's definitely going to be a guy we're going to keep our eye on um, once late February comes around. So Jared Young, a bench candidate for the 2025 New York Metropolitans. So I think we'll wrap up there. Obviously, there's probably still some things to talk about when it comes to more depth stuff, but we'll save that for another day. So, Mr. Hogeveen, we thank you for joining us today. I know you're getting ready to head out to the head out to work. Um, so have fun at work, like that ever
Thanks.
happens, and we'll talk to you very soon.
Yeah, talk to you soon. Happy 2025. Let's get a ring this year.
Well, what ring are you talking about? I'm gonna have to put you on the spot on this one.
Not a wedding ring.
Okay,
If you
okay,
that's not gonna happen.
okay, okay. Well, I just wanted to ask a question. Don't. Uh,
And even then, you're afraid to fly anywhere. You're
no,
afraid to fly anyway.
I'm not afraid to
To
fly. I hate to fly. There's a
oh
difference.
well, all right. You hate to fly anyway to visit our great wedding if we have one, but we probably don't. So uh, you wouldn't care anyways.
Well, I
You
can't.
are welcome, by the way, but it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, crazier things have happened.
That's true.
All right, this has been episode number 55 of the Queen's Connection, a production of Pad Sports Creative. Make sure to like, subscribe wherever you listen, Spotify, YouTube, and also make sure to like and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. We'll call it Elon's website. Just search the Queen's Connection and we'll pop up. So make sure to give us a like or a follow. We thank you very much. Have a happy 2025, and hopefully there are good things to come this year, especially on the baseball field.